So, as a reminder, if I were keeping up on this, there would be descriptions and indexes down below this video. So I'll try to get caught up on that here one of these days and start doing that again. I'm like three weeks behind on that now or so. But I put the videos up, but I don't have any descriptions or anything put in. So I'll try to get around and do that. And for me, I finally moved out of my old place and moved into my new place. I've got a mess, and I need to account for all the just the regular stuff to get my life back in order. So I'm not really getting much done other than every once in a while I see something. Hey, that's I should play with that someday. And I think Bob got moved, and I hopefully his life's going better than mine is. So anyway, so as I say, I haven't really done anything other than looking around to see what if I found anything fun that I was playing with, but I don't think I have. So maybe by next week I'll get around and do something. Oh, I was mentioning last week I was showing my like an aerial view of the map of where I live and trying to think up things that I could do that I could have my robot do. It seems like if I just make a list and say, here, I want to try this or try this or try this. So it seems like one of the things is going back to this GPS stuff. One of the first things I could do is turn on my GPS. I got the one on the back for RTK location and the one on the front that gives me the static heading, which is not strictly necessary, but I suckered for that one time and I've got that. And I'm thinking what you could do is you could just record all the information off the GPS. So go into your ROS drivers and say, I want to know, say these 10 different messages and just have it automatically publish those. And then you can go back when you get ready to do something, turn on your ROS bag record and say record everything going by. So all the message coming out of the GPS would be there and you can look at them after the fact. So at that point, I could take my remote control and just drive the thing around the building and drive it by the trees and drive it next to the building. I was thinking one thing I'd like to know is if I drive up close to the building, how does that affect my GPS? Does it drop out completely or does it get worse? And I realize I can't because they got big rain gutters coming down. They stick out like 20 feet from the building or something. Well, sitting on big piles of rocks. So I can only get so close to the building in the first place. That might save me at that point. And then if I drive around behind the building, there are trees there, so I will be driving underneath the trees. So that way, when you play it back, you can see your XY location because that's coming off latitude and longitude. And then you can go look at all the status of your GPS and say, is it an RTK fix or RTK float or a 3D fix or whatever. I think there's like at least two different kind of status you can get off GPS. One just simply says you have no fix or you have a 3D fix or you have something else. And then there's the other one that's got the more elaborate things like the RGK and the DGPS. They got a whole list of things so that after the fact, you can go look at all that stuff and say, as I drive around, as I drive under the trees or drive around a building or whatever, you should be able to see that. So that's one thing I could put on my list to just simply have do a special experiment just to try that and see what, on what part of the property I'm on and how well the signal is. And another thing I was thinking about was you could, again, back to the same concept, just record all of your sensors, whatever they happen to be, and just drive like a raster pattern back and forth around the property. And then what you can do is you can come back after the fact and say, take point 1 to point 2 and just draw, a straight line in 3D and basically just create a topographic map of your area. So, it's you could drive as you're driving forward, draw a line from your current point to your last point in 3D space. And then also while you do that, look off to the right and draw a line to the closest point there, and off to the left, draw the closest point. So when you're done, you should end up with a mesh that would show what's out there. And depending, how uh, what kind of resolution you use when you do this, like how fast is it updating the points, and then how far apart are your raster lines that you're driving on, and that way you could say, okay, I want to know more about this part of the property, so you could specifically, drive closer together at that point. So anyway, that was another thing I thought of that it was that's something else that could just fall out of the whole process. If you just go out and drive around, say I'm going to drive in this raster pattern, after the fact, you'd have all your GPS data and you'd have all your location and your altitudes. As far as altitude, the RTK GPS should give you a fairly decent altitude, and you should be able to read your IMU to get your pitch, roll, and yaw of the vehicle. So if you're going uphill or downhill, if you're tilted to the right or tilted to the left. and all that information should be there. So that'd be something else, just a matter of trying to, after the fact, extract all this information and do something fun with it. So that's something to put on my list that I need to, when I would finally take this thing outside and drive it, go ahead and test for that. And speaking of taking outside, usually if it's easy to get outside, you don't work on all these startup steps. So when you're going to take it outside and say, okay, I have to put it on the ground, then I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to start up these programs, do all this kind of stuff. But now it's elaborate enough that I have to go through multiple doors and I have to go up 4 steps to get outside. And once I'm out there, I'm far enough away from where I actually live that I can't just run back in the house and get something or do something. So it, pardon me.
Oh,
Hold on a second here. What I meant to do was pause it. I started poking around and stuff here. Okay, so I'm back. This is what was I talking about? So one of the things to put on the list would be create a new startup routine. Just make it easier to start the thing. So if I go to the trouble of, dragging it outside, put in the yard, and then if I just said, see one button, say go, do robot stuff, and have it go through and do, anything like set up all your sensors and set up. And if you have to do any calibration, you might run a calibration step. And it just seems like the easier that is to start up, then the less time I would waste, and just the better off everybody would be if I do that. So that's something else I could put on the list to do that. And I haven't thought much further ahead than that. So I do know the thing still runs, because when I moved it into here, I took it out of my old place, put it on the ground. I drove it out to my car with remote control, and I threw it in the back of the car. When I brought it over here, I put it on the ground again and used a remote control to drive it into the building. And then once I got through the first door, I had to pick it up like a 2-wheel cart and drop it down like 4 steps, and then I could go back to driving again. So it's a pain to get it in and out, but I really have no choice other than I could let it live in the garage, but I don't know how safe it is to leave it in my garage. It's just got one of those crappy garage doors, and they're crappy garages, and I don't know how safe it would be to leave it out there. Plus, I get a lot of water when it rains out there. That'd be another problem. So that's just more stuff I can think about as time goes by here. Oh, the other thing was, as I was parking the thing in my living room here, it's sitting right here next on the floor next to me. I noticed that as I was pushing it, it was making a funny noise, and I'm wondering if I broke the coupler on the I've got an encoder on the main drive motor, and I when I first put that on, I noticed that it was acting funny, and I realized I'd broke the coupler that went between the motor shaft and the encoder shaft, and it make funny noises as it moved. So I think as I drive forward, it would make kind of a clicking sound, and as I drive back, it wouldn't, or maybe the other way around. And I finally realized you could see that in the plots. The plots were doing something funny. I finally realized that it's like an aluminum coupler that has a spiral cut into it, and that had snapped for some reason. And it was odd that it was still working, but I could see on the plots, and it was doing funny things. So that's something else I need to look into to see if see what kind of damage it has taken in the last year or so of sitting around doing nothing. So that's another thing. Just give it a good once over, and I need to clean up the wiring, and then so that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I guess unless somebody prompts me here with makes me think of something else, I guess I'll turn it over to somebody else here.
Bob, you want to go or you want me to go?
no, you go first.
Okay, so let's see. Share screen. Share. A couple things going on. This is a graphic out of my Miro board. Just trying to lay things out. Trying to integrate plan on having 2 GPSs on the tractor / rover. Physically, it's over here because the antenna will be in the back, and this one is over here because the antenna will be on the front. Trying to integrate that at the moment, and by integrate I mean this is a picture I posted to Slack showing another GPS unit that would be the base, to provide correction data. The battery and the solar charge controller and the Raspberry Pi 3 and the DC to DC regulator is all working fine. I was struggling at getting this ComNav GPS to spit out clean RTCM messages, and actually wasn't able to get. They kept coming up and saying that the RTCM messages were not formed correctly. So since I had another GPS sitting back or sitting on the side from an outfit called Skytrack or NavSpark, I switched over and I've been trying to use that. And I was using the Wi-Fi chip on the Raspberry Pi to take RTCM data from here through the port on the Raspberry Pi and output it to Wi-Fi. And I've been able to do that when this GPS was connected to my laptop, my Windows 10 laptop on the same network. When I connected this to the RPi, I was getting latency issues, and so it was, 1 second it would be at RTK fix, the next second it would be at RTK float. So wasn't able to get that to be stable. So bottom line is I'm in the middle of still trying to get RTK fix and correction data to all work correctly. More specifically, where I'm at the moment is I went back and said, okay, well, can I get RTK to go to work? I mean, and that's going to be a network connection. Actually, it should be worse from a latency standpoint. And I've been able to get that to work. And this is a picture from this map service that you can get to if you putz around with RTK to go. And this site, based on latitude and longitude, is about 15 miles away or so. And I'm able to get fix on, again, my laptop from this to when I have my GPS hooked up. Where I'm at the moment, though, is I can't seem to get RTK to go to work with my Raspberry Pi. When this is connected here, I get authentication errors, so it's not letting me authenticate to my to the RTK to go server. Oh, even though I can ping it and all that stuff, which back to that Murphy thing we were talking about earlier. I was messing around with my UFW or my firewall rules on one of these Raspberry Pis, and I basically deleted SSH. So I had to go reconnect it and reapply all my rules. So yeah, that's a pain in the backside when you screw up your SSH and you can't get to it anymore. This is my repository out on GitHub, and I've got a couple of different clients I'm working on. One is to fetch the RTCM data through RTK to go, and this was to fetch it over TCP/IP. So those are both out there. Neither one are good yet. And then I've also got a folder out here for my base station, and so I'm putting all my Python programs that are running on the base station out here as well. So this server seems to be working just fine, although it's, like I said, I'm having some network issues that since I'm able to connect with my laptop and not my rover Pi, I think that either a load or something going on. But um, I got a number of things to test. One of the tests that I would do is I get it off my home network, take a router, and the only two things that are connected are this Pi and the base station Pi, and see if it talks. But that's where I'm at the moment, is working on getting consistent RTK fix data to be able to ingest that into my tractor board. And that's it for me. What's going on in your world, Bob?
Well, after messaging you and Terry about AprilTags, I got real interested. So I'm just beginning now to try and understand. And it took me 2 days to print out the calibration picture. So I finally got it. I don't know if this shows up. So it's mounted on a box. I understand the principle. I just don't know how much, how you can use multiple tags to identify your location, or if you're trying to drive around in something other than a rectangle, how could you go at an angle between AprilTags? Should show you some of the house. Right now I'm on split screen, so my left one is showing you and my right one is showing pictures. I don't know how to share the screen, or if the other pictures would come up.
There's a green button in the middle bottom of the screen. It says share screen. If you click on that,
Okay.
you'll probably be presented with another window, and you might have to do another click or two, but
Yeah, I'll have to go to full screen because I can't see it. Okay.
that's where you start.
Okay.
Sometimes if you drag your mouse down, then the menu will show up, but you might just have to.
Okay. I see a share button.
Yeah.
Okay. Photos. Okay, here we go. In the upper left corner is the motor on the Jeep. It's a differential drive.
It didn't share yet.
Oh, how do I select photos, or?
Usually it'll bring up a thing asking which window do you want to share, and
Oh, okay.
and if you've got something you want to see, and if you just have, do you have one screen or do you have two screens on your way you're
Right
set up?
now, I just see all the pictures on one screen. So I select one. I guess it's 3, 4, 5, 6.
The original button you pushed, did it say share screen or did it say share?
Just share.
Well, you need to find something to share screen, and that
Oh,
because by just sharing, you're just trying to show one
okay.
thing at a time, I think.
And then if you're like, for me, I have a option of entire screen, which is what I click next.
Oh, okay.
So it's share button, entire screen, and then share again. But that's through the browser. I don't know if you're on the app or the browser.
Oh well. Oh well. I'll try a different approach, or I got to read up on how to do that. I'll get one of the motors. These are the motors that are in the Barbie Jeep, like this, and then up here the wheel is attached. So I had to spend quite a bit of time cleaning them up, because evidently they use packing grease inside, and it was a mess to clean up. By rights, I should take the whole thing apart, clean everything up, and then repack it, but I'm not going to do that for right now. They do work. I threw them across 12 volts, and it goes really fast. So I'm going to have to slow it down quite a bit. But right now we got a lot more pressing things to do around the house. They're rebuilding the road in front of our house completely. And they've dropped a lot of trees. They'll bring in a chipper, and the guy just told me that they'll try and save me some firewood. So we don't have much of a footprint. So I got to figure out where to put stuff and still make room for that. And in order to get into my trailer, I'll probably have to cut up all the logs first and move them before I can get back to some kind of normal life. But I think I am gonna go down the AprilTags path, just experiment with it. But it's gonna take me a while. We're still trying to hang pictures and unpack boxes, and when I moved, it was really hard to decide what to bring. And there just isn't enough space up here. So I got rid of a lot of stuff, including, spare parts and stuff like that. But I'm finding I don't have to worry too much, because when I go to the transfer station with cardboard and all that stuff, everyone's bringing their lawnmowers and all kinds of metal and stuff like that. It's amazing what people are just throwing away. So if I need wheels or something like that, when I go to dump the garbage, I'll just see what's in there. On average, they get about one garden tractor a week or 2 weeks. So I don't have to worry about spare parts. So, but right now it's they're gonna grind up whole trees in order to make room for doing the dirt work. So I've got to focus on that. And I'll share some pictures around the house, which is going to be my environment I have to play with, and then also where the trees are. It's I may have some grass that I can mow, and I do have an electric mower. And my wife said, well, maybe you can play with that if you don't cut it up too bad. So I'm trying to think of how to mount that electric mower on the Barbie Jeep in front, or in the back, and drive it around like a zero turn lawnmower. But the complication is I can't alter it too bad. It has to be a standalone. I have to be able to take it off and mow by hand. But that's about where we are.
Just getting the Barbie Jeep under control before you worry about the mechanics of cutting grass would be my recommendation, because there's plenty to do just getting it under control.
Yeah, the contractor still has to bring in black dirt and establish a lawn. When he was preparing the site, growing trees and rock, it created a lot of holes. And of course, it all filled up with water. So they brought in many loads of sand to build up the building site. So it's going to be a challenge. So
on the AprilTag thing, you actually posted a link to an Instructable, and I don't know much about these things, but I heard two different questions. One is sort of, how do you know which tag you're talking to, and do you have to draw? I think you said something like, do you have to drive in a box?
Go ahead. I followed the link and read the article, and there were instructions on how to download the calibrating grid, which is the one that I showed you.
Right.
I don't know how they come up with all the math. The one that's in that screen is not the calibration one. It's just another one. So it's going to be, so I can, if I understand it, I'll be able to understand how much distance is between the camera lens and that grid work. But when trying to use it for navigation, you'd need a couple of them, and then you'd have to triangulate. And I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you have to figure out all that trigonometry. I think the software library is going to do that for you. In this case, they give you this XYZ coordinate, and what you need to be able to do is understand, as you move, how that XYZ coordinate changes. And you're right, this is not the calibration based on where these black dots and white dots are. It gives this thing an identifier.
Yeah, evidently you can make them even as you go, and drop them as you go, or make. And he's got a library of a few of them that you could run off. I don't know. I'm still learning, still trying to understand what he's saying.
Yeah, like one of them that I came across that said it was the most, well, it was you. Terry is a part of that first robotics club, and they use a particular set of these things. And with them, their standard, I think, was 512 different combinations of these black and white squares. And so you got 1 through 512 if you used their standard. And so you would know I'm on, tag 202, and my XYZ coordinate to that is whatever. And so my understanding is, as long as this box is in the picture somewhere, you can calculate that orientation.
Yeah.
But again, I only know what I've learned watching a few videos.
Yeah, I have to do a whole lot more research on the whole thing. But thankfully, though, I don't have a lot of space that's going to be problematic. So it's just a small area. The other question I have is, like, if you can get one of those tags in view of your camera and you need to see another one, or can you spin the camera, rotate it around, and read many of them? But then you've got a diameter of space where that camera lens kind of rotates around. So you'd have to, that might be way too much complication to compensate for that. So maybe, just like you say, just have 2 or more in one picture and go with that.
Yeah, I would think as long as you're, I don't know, maybe 60 degrees within your view, you're going to have 2 in your view, if you move from one to the other.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then to calculate a path using them, that's going to be the big thing. How do you do your offsets or whatever? So anyway, it's a start, but everything's on the low burner until we get the house settled in and the wood. And I have to find room for that flatbed trailer, because that's where the wood pile is going to go. We don't have a whole lot of room at all. So anyhow, that's where I'm at.
Well, it's nice that you're here. I'm good, Jeff.